Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. Let me ask you a question. How much do you actually know about hybrid striped bass? Well, if you've ever caught one, then I'm sure you'd agree, pound for pound, they're one of the most aggressive, hardest fighting fish to catch in Oklahoma. And as the name suggests, you could probably assume that as a hybrid, well, they're a cross between two separate species. But for most of us, that's about the extent of what we know about hybrid striped bass. So today, we're going to give you a behind-the-curtain look as our fisheries crews actually produce hybrid striped bass. It's an intense team effort by our biologists and our technicians to produce literally millions of these hybrids every year for folks just like you and me to enjoy.
We're out here looking to catch some hybrid striped bass this morning. It's looking pretty good. It's a nice morning, no rain so far, and about to put these live shad on, drop it down into the school that's a fish beneath us, and hopefully get into some hybrid striped bass. Come on, buddy.
That's a good one.
So this is our hybrid striped bass. Hybrid between the striped bass and the white bass, the state fish of Oklahoma. And my role in producing these is I go out and collect the white bass male brooders each spring and bring them over to the Byron State Fish Hatchery so that they have the male component for the combination to make these hybrids. There you go, looking good.
We're good to shock. Yes, sir.
Now that we have our white bass, we are going to sex them and look for males and only keep the males. The females we will return to the stream where we collected them, that way that they can continue their run on their spawn. Just kind of gently press on their bellies and you can see the milt come out. You can see the white milt. So we know that's a male. So we go ahead and keep the male. This one, you can see right here, eggs coming out. That's the female, and she is good to go. So we're gonna get her back into the water so that she can go finish her spawn. We're gonna take these fish to Byron State Fish Hatchery. It's about an hour and a half from this location right here.
So the North Central region guys just showed up today and delivered the white bass smells that we're going to use for hybrid production. We've put them in this holding pond for about a month until we get ready to use them. Then we can drain this pond and get those males out and bring them into the fish house. These fish will stay in this pond for about 3 to 4 weeks. We generally go out about the last week of April, first week of May to collect the female striped bass. And these fish, there's food in this pond for these fish.
white bass collection is now over. Now the striped bass collection begins. Oh, fish on!
In order to even have these fish available, we gotta go below some tail races, or below dams and tail races, below Eufaula, Keystone, or Zinc Dam in Tulsa, and that's where we collect the female stripers that are combined with the male white bass to make this fish.
There you go. They're running like 10,000, I think.
Yep.
That fish there is probably nine to 10 hours away from spawning. It's pretty unusual. Typically here, we don't really get too many that are that close. So in 9 or 10 hours, this fish would have naturally spawned in the wild. So when we capture these fish, we stress them in their body. Basically, what they do is they quit developing the eggs because they're stressed. They're in an unnatural environment. All the hormone does is it induces the spawning. So in roughly 18 to 20 hours from when we inject the fish, we force that fish's body to continue to develop the egg. And
13.6, Chris.
and that's why we have to use the hormone. Otherwise, the fish would not go through its spawning process and would not develop the eggs any further. What'd you say, Josh?
13.6. Yeah, so that was the last one. We just eased them all into the tank there, washed them off first. They're all tagged. They've all got their ACG, so we know what they weigh, what stage each of them are. So when they get to the hatchery, they unload these fish. They'll know what they're working with, when to start, and they've got 8 fish, and I think we're done.
And they sure do pull. Here he comes. You know, I guess this completes a full circle for me, you know, on this trip. Every hybrid striped bass produced in the state of Oklahoma is produced at the Byron Hatchery where I work, and so now that I've, you know, I caught this fish today and know for sure that he was produced and reared at the Byron Fish Hatchery and stocked out here, and kind of completes the circle for me as far as being able to come and catch him. So that's what it's about for me. Now that it's been about 24 hours after we injected these females, what we do now is we take a small sample of the eggs and look at them under the microscope, and we're going to see the development of the egg and see how far the fish has progressed in the egg development, and it gives us a pretty good idea of when this fish is going to spawn. Looks like she's about 13 hours away. So now we know approximately when this fish is going to ovulate, and we'll write all that information down and keep tabs on her and hopefully spawn her in about 13 hours. 3 pink, Coulter. This fish is ready to spawn. Get your left-hand glove on. See? Had her down for 9, checked her at 7. She's ready to go. So this fish we just put in a tank of MS222, which is basically calms the fish and kind of knocks her out where we can handle her. We don't want this fish thrashing around. She's going to go out briefly, then he's going to take that fish and rinse that chemical off that fish before we spawn that fish. We don't want any of that chemical to get into the eggs as we spawn. So as soon as stuff hits that pan, start stirring just like this. The hybrid striped bass is a real aggressive fish. It typically will inhabit those open water areas in the lake that generally most other species don't, they're not found in that open water. If we've got a situation in a lake that, for example, has a stunned crappie population, we can introduce this sterile hybrid predator to help manage that species, and further down the years where we feel like we've got that under control, then we just quit stocking those hybrids and they can't reproduce. We use a feather to stir the eggs with. We don't want to damage the eggs, so we use a feather to stir them with. We'll put this fish in fresh water and she'll come back to life in about 3 to 4 minutes and she'll be just fine. So now that the eggs have been fertilized, after a little bit the eggs will settle to the bottom of that pan, and Coulter, what he's going to do now is he's just going to cant off the water real slow. The eggs will stay on the bottom of the pan. We want to get those eggs as clean as we can before we put them in the hatching jars. So this is just a rinse to clean the eggs up a little bit. So what we're doing now is we're putting 500 milliliters of eggs per jar. And so we're measuring exactly how many eggs we're putting per jar. I'm taking a 1 milliliter sample of eggs. I've got to count this sample to see how many eggs there are per milliliter. There's roughly anywhere from 400 to 600 eggs per milliliter, but it varies from fish to fish. Generally, the smaller the fish, the smaller the egg diameter. So you have to count each fish and see how big the eggs are to get an accurate estimation on total egg take per fish. 1,370,000 eggs out of that one fish. That's a good fish. So far we've done 3.3 million eggs so far. After the fry are put into the tanks and they hatch, approximately 5 days after hatch is when we want to start feeding them brine shrimp. We do advanced fry here at Byron. We want to feed those fry for 6 days after the 5th day, after 5 days old. So what we're doing is we're feeding fry, we're getting them to 11-day-old fry before we stock them into our production ponds. These are advanced fry. We've been feeding them brine shrimp for about 6 days, about 11 days after they hatch. So the easiest way to get these fry into one container is to siphon them into this basket. From this basket, then we can divide them out into our boxes for shipping. We're definitely glad to see them leave, but we want them in the best shape, best shape possible we can get them. And feeding at midnight, feeding at 6 a.m., babysitting them. These are our babies, take care of them like our kids, it seems like. All right, we got them. As soon as we get these fry concentrated into this basket, time is of the essence, of course. We need to get these fry in these boxes just as soon as we can. Minutes count, hours count in this job. The fry are gonna be in good shape in those fry boxes for really about 6 to 8 hours at the densities that we put them in there. So we get them to their final destination usually in 2 or 3 hours. So we want to push out all the air, and then we fill it up with pure oxygen. These fry are probably twice as big, almost twice as big as they were at 4 days old. They're stronger, they're on feed, they're healthier, and we feel like that taking them to the advanced fry stage really benefits us in our overall fingerling production. The big scheme of things is we're producing fish for a lot of people in the United States to catch throughout the Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, Texas, so it all works out.
There's 17. Let's stock 8 because it's got the nice structure on it. Years ago, we used to stock these like you would an aquarium with a little bag of fish, sit them down into the aquarium and let the temperature equalize between the bag and the aquarium. Well, with the number of fish that's in here, the CO2 is climbing, and that oxygen that they air that bag up with is sitting down there on it, and it keeps them pretty well oxygenated. But once you open that bag, all the oxygen leaves and the CO2 takes over, and your fish are struggling for oxygen. So we put them in these ice chests with oxygen already, so we lessen the severity of stressing the fish out. We've got this tempered. They're going to load it in the ice chest here in the back of our gator, and we're going to take it out to the pond. They're going to put the ice chest here on the wall here of our harvest structure. They'll use this tube for the drain in the ice chests. Then the fish will go out into the water. They won't splash, they don't hit. These fry will be in here anywhere from 32 to 40 days, roughly. This is our smallest pond. This is about 7/10 of an acre. We're stocking right at 100,000 fry into this one. We've got 5 ponds we've just stocked. There should be a little over 650,000 fry that we've stocked out for growth. Right here we're harvesting our pond. They've been in for about 28 days, a little shorter than normal, but our water temperatures have been really warm. The fish are growing a lot faster than expected. We put about 150,000 in this pond. We're hoping to get about 40% return. That would be great. Acceptable would be around 30. This is the ditch system that the pond was draining into. It's running down to our catch basin. One of our employees he's keeping the screen clean, sitting there. They're running samples right now on weight because we'll load these fish by weight. He'll run at least 3 to 5 samples, and we'll average it out. Because one sample, you could have a couple fish in there that's just a little bit bigger than the other. Here he's doing his weight sample, figure out how many there are to the pound. As I told you earlier, he'll run 3 to 5 samples to get an accurate count. 1,100 to the pound is what that came out to. 81,000. All right, well, I'll load about 20,000 and send them to Eureka. We've got a push screen in there, and he's going to push a big part of this basin. There's a lot of tadpoles in there, and he's going to push it, and they'll all come down toward this end, and then we'll let it up. Most of the fish will go to the fresh water flow. Joe will turn it back up here in a minute, and he'll pull that screen up, and we'll just flip it around, and we should have fairly clean fish on that side of the push screen, which helps us load so we're not having to pick out a lot of tadpoles. 7-3. We don't want to leave them in that bucket that long. Yeah, you ain't got a very big load.
I've actually never been to Eureka. This will be my first time. But I know I got 20,000 hybrid striped bass that are going there. Best part of the job. Get to see places of Oklahoma you never would see. We've already stocked 80,000 once today, and I've got 20,000 on this truck. And we're here at Lake Eureka. And the fish were looking really good, so I think we stopped and checked the fish 3 times. It's done for right now until we get back to the hatchery and we disinfect the truck, the tank, anything that touched the water. I think we've stocked a little over 100,000 hybrid striped bass into this lake alone today, which is a pretty impressive feat. It'll be like 1.5 years before they're any size to catch, but 2 years and they'll be a good sized fish, 1.5 to 2 pounds by then for sure. And then they'll keep growing from there.
To see where the guys that actually make this happen and to have them on my boat and then them catching the fish, like he said, the end result, it's just great. You don't get no better than that.
Another hybrid striped bass in the boat today. This is a licensed dollar at work right here and producing another hybrid.
Yeah, no, if you've never caught one of these fish yourself or have never caught a fish like this, I would recommend hiring a guide or just going out and doing it yourself. I guarantee you there's not going to be any more excitement than you're going to feel with one of these on the end of your line.
The next time that I catch a hybrid striped bass, I'm going to be reminded of Jeremy and Chris and Eric and John and all the other team members and all the efforts they went into that made it possible for me to catch that one single fish. We hope that next time you catch a hybrid that you'll be reminded as well that it was your licensed dollars at work that made catching that fish even possible. Thanks for joining us today, and for all of us at your wildlife department, I'm Todd Craighead, and we'll see you right back here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.
Thanks for buying a fishing license.
What the?
I know, but listen. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean so families can fish and swim, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
It also provides fishing education and activities for the kids, and funds long-term plans to protect our lakes and streams.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Did he?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Because every dollar from a licensed purchase protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Learn more at takemefishing.org.